I'm Lakshmi Singh. NPR has learned that Congress has officially certified the results of the 2020 census that determined each state's new share of seats in Congress for the next decade. NPR's Hansi Lo-Wang reports the process was delayed for months because of the coronavirus pandemic and last-minute schedule changes under the Trump administration.
Federal law requires a handoff of the first set of census results, which are used to reallocate seats in the U.S. House of Representatives and votes in the Electoral College. Last week, the Census Bureau reported those numbers to the Commerce Secretary, who then delivered them to President Biden for another handoff to Congress. In a statement to NPR, the clerk of the House, Cheryl Johnson, says certificates with each state's new share of House seats were sent to governors on Monday. Still, this process took place about 4 months after the bipartisan.
The Food and Drug Administration is expected to soon authorize the use of Pfizer's COVID-19 vaccine in children as young as 12. Here's NPR's Joe Palca.
Right now, the emergency use authorization the FDA has granted to Pfizer allows its COVID-19 vaccine to be used in people older than 16. But the company has presented data to the FDA suggesting the vaccine is safe to administer to adolescents and is effective in preventing disease in these children as well. Pfizer has also begun evaluating the safety and efficacy of the vaccine in younger children, with results from studies of children as young as 2 available by September. Studies of infants are not expected until the end of the year. The company is also expecting results by midsummer from a study of its vaccine in people who are pregnant. Joe Palca, NPR News.
The politics surrounding COVID-19 vaccines is intensifying in Florida, where Republican Governor Ron DeSantis has signed an order to lift COVID restrictions statewide. That includes masks and social distancing. DeSantis says the restrictions are no longer necessary because people as young as 16 can get a COVID vaccine if they want one. But as NPR's Greg Allen explains, fewer than half of the state's eligible residents are fully inoculated against COVID.
Just over 42% here statewide have received at least one dose. That's behind the national average. Although he encourages everyone to get the vaccine, DeSantis says repeatedly that he believes it's a matter of individual choice, and his opposition to vaccine passports sends that message that it's okay not to be vaccinated.
NPR's Greg Allen reporting. Well, new coronavirus cases and deaths in India are still mounting at a record pace. The South Asian government says in just the past 24 hours, more than 357,000 new cases have been reported. A month ago, India was seeing an average of 300 people dying per day from COVID-19. Today, the death toll per day is over 3,000 in India. At last check on Wall Street, the Dow is down 133 points. You're listening to NPR News.
Florida's Governor Ron DeSantis has signed an order canceling all COVID-related restrictions, so things like mask requirements and social distancing guidelines. Here he is in a restaurant in St. Petersburg talking about this decision.
I think folks that are saying that they need to be policing people at this point, if you're saying that, you really are saying you don't believe in the vaccines, you don't believe in the data, you don't believe in science.
NPR's Greg Allen is following this story from Miami. Good morning, Greg.
Good morning.
So presumably the pandemic is not over there in Florida.
No, certainly not. Let's talk about the numbers here. Yesterday there were more than 3,000 cases. Cases are still staying high, going down very slowly. We have 41 additional deaths. DeSantis is saying that he believes, though, that because the vaccine is available to all who want to get it, there's no reason to keep imposing restrictions on individuals and businesses. You know, and he's not alone. New York, New Jersey, and Connecticut have all announced that they will end most COVID restrictions in 2 weeks.
So what does this order mean on the ground? How do you think you'll see things change?
Well, you know, Florida here doesn't have a mask mandate statewide, but in cities and counties around the most populous areas of the states, they have been in place. They've been following CDC guidelines, you know, with social distancing inside. Many areas require masks to be worn inside and outside in crowds. But DeSantis says his new order invalidates all those mask requirements.
If we have widespread vaccinations that are over 99% effective, what's the evidence basis to force somebody to wear a mask? Now, or any of these restrictions.
You know, DeSantis says this order is just about government regulations. It doesn't apply to businesses. But at the same time, he has another order that prevents the use of so-called vaccine passports. Under that order, people can't be denied service because they won't share information about whether or not they're vaccinated. And this has implications for cruise lines, which are trying to get restarted here.
DeSantis has been criticizing lockdowns and other restrictions for a long time, but isn't he also sort of stepping on cities and counties that have made their own rules about this?
Well, he certainly is. I mean, that's the way they see it. He's repeatedly said, DeSantis has said that he believes the extended COVID lockdowns and closure of the schools were public health disasters, as he's called them. He also has now signed a law that allows local officials to impose their emergency measures just for a week at a time and for 6 weeks in total. And he can override those orders any time. It's a major blow to home rule. Democrats say it's hypocritical because it basically turns on its head this idea that Republicans have long been this champions of local control, saying that local officials can decide what's best for the communities. Here's St. Petersburg's Mayor Rick Kreisman.
And it's about the state trying to wrestle control and take control away from local government, from the people who are closest to the people who elected them to make the decisions about what's best for our community.
You know, that battle over preemption, the state taking authority away from local governments is one we've seen often here in Florida and around the country. It will likely face a court challenge. It's just one of many controversial things that have happened here in Florida recently in the legislative session. There's been some other things on everything from elections to transgender athletes to protests, and those will all be challenged, I believe.
A lot going on. Let me ask you, do other local government officials agree with the mayor there who's saying the state is trying to take control away from us?
Oh, yeah, I think nationally here, mayors, or not nationally, statewide mayors feel that they've been blindsided by this. Miami-Dade Mayor Daniela Levine Cava, for example, says this area is still in a public health emergency and new variants are spreading. Other mayors say that they think that they did the right thing while Governor Sanders took a largely hands-off approach to the coronavirus. And populous areas like Miami, Orlando, and Tampa put these mandates in, and now all those mandates are ending.
NPR's Greg Allen in Miami. Thanks, Greg.
You're welcome.
We are marking an important milestone.
Allow us to introduce ourselves.
This is NPR, National Public Radio. NPR is turning 50. It's really kind of an improbable story. NPR barely made it onto the air.
I thought we would never survive another week. It was just going to be beyond awful, and in fact, it was beyond awful.
But the blueprint for NPR was infused from the start with the chance to do something different.
We were creating it from scratch. There was no template for it.
I'm Audie Cornish. Tap your screen now to keep listening to 50 and Forward, an anniversary celebration of NPR.
Most of the 1 million people who work in offices in Manhattan haven't gone back to work yet because of the pandemic. This week, the mayor of New York City ordered municipal employees to start showing back up at their offices to help jumpstart things. Here's Beth Furtick from member station WNYC. For Cheryl Guilford Jackson, Monday marked the return of an old routine.
Got up in the morning, got myself ready. This time I made lunch. I did make lunch.
For the first time in 14 months, Guilford Jackson commuted from her home in Long Island to her desk at a city agency in Lower Manhattan. She was a little nervous, but everyone was kept at least 6 feet apart.
The occupancy on the floor is not full. It's like maybe 20, 25, give or take. Coming in, they're doing all the precautions to make sure we are safe.
Masks are required at all times except when eating, and vaccinations, though not required, are strongly encouraged. More than 2/3 of the city's 300,000 workers were already in their offices, but 80,000 were still working entirely from home. They now have to report for duty at least 1 day a week. Robin Liverpool was only coming in about twice a month until now. She got her nails painted yellow and dressed up for the occasion.
I got my open toe shoes on. It was like the first day of school for me.
She says it felt good seeing more people again in person.
My old supervisor sits next to me, and there was another young lady I haven't seen since. So it's good to see them, good to catch up, ask them how's their family. Some people have lost people, unfortunately. Some people haven't.
Some workers fear the city is rushing them back too soon, but Mayor Bill de Blasio says more than half of all city employees have had at least one vaccination. He also says bringing more workers into city offices would help restaurants and other businesses that are still struggling. This has been especially true in Chinatown. The neighborhood is also coping with anti-Asian hate crimes. Chivi Ngo owns Boki Restaurant near City Hall and was hoping he'd have a busy lunch hour, but it was still quiet Monday.
We should give it a little more time to come in because we just started today.
Across the street, he saw one good sign. A parking lot was looking more full than usual. For NPR News, I'm Beth Fertig in New York. When eating and vaccinations, though not required, are strongly encouraged. More than 2/3 of the city's 300,000 workers were already in their offices, but 80,000 were still working entirely from home. They now have to report for duty at least one day a week. Robin Liverpool was only coming in about twice a month until now. She got her nails painted yellow and dressed up for the occasion.
I got my open toe shoes on. It was like the first day of school for me.
She says it felt good seeing more people again in person.
My old supervisor sits next to me, and there was another young lady I haven't seen since. So it's good to see them, good to catch up. Ask them how's their family. Some people have lost people, unfortunately. Some people haven't.
Some workers fear the city is rushing them back too soon, but Mayor Bill de Blasio says more than half of all city employees have had at least one vaccination. He also says bringing more workers into city offices would help restaurants and other businesses that are still struggling. This has been especially true in Chinatown. The neighborhood is also coping with anti-Asian hate crimes. Chivi Ngo owns Boki Restaurant near City Hall and was hoping he'd have a busy lunch hour, but it was still quiet Monday.
We should give it a little more time to come in because we just started today.
Across the street, he saw one good sign. A parking lot was looking more full than usual. For NPR News, I'm Beth Fertig in New York. Good morning. It's Tuesday, May 4th. I'm Suzanne Quatley, and you're listening to the LA Report from KPCC and LAist.com. Here's your morning news. Los Angeles County could qualify to move to the least restrictive yellow tier, the state's reopening blueprint, as soon as today. This comes as the county reported no new COVID-19 deaths yesterday for the second day of the plan. Officials say there may be some reporting delays, as there usually are with weekends, but those zeros are still indicative of a major decrease since March, when Los Angeles County averaged only 20 deaths a day from COVID-19. Public Health Director Barbara Ferrer says yellow tier or no yellow tier,